Welcome back to Ben's Book Club. Today we are diving into the book 12 Essential Life Skills for Teens. In this explainer, we're looking at Dan Hawthorne's 2025 book, which basically acts as the ultimate missing graduation handbook. We're talking about a practical, no-nonsense guide designed specifically to bridge that massive, and let's face it, pretty intimidating gap between high school and the real world. Think of it as a much-needed crash course in adulting that covers all those everyday mechanics standard school curricula just kind of skip over. So before we get into the core of Hawthorne's framework, I want you to reflect for a second. What was the one basic skill you turned 18 without knowing? Like, how bad was the crash course when you just had to figure it out yourself? Maybe it was turning all your white socks pink because you completely messed up the laundry. Or, standing at a bank counter sweating because you had literally no idea how to open an account. For a lot of us, entering adulthood feels exactly like being thrown into the deep end without a life vest. Okay, let's dive into this. Our roadmap today covers the missing manual, mastering mindset, everyday survival, emotional intelligence, and finally, building small habits. Just like the book's structure, each of these skills builds right on top of the last to give you a completely manageable path forward. Let's start with Section 1, the missing manual, bridging the gap to adulthood. So teens face what we can call an independence paradox today. They fear the adult world, right? But that fear actually stems from a lack of preparation, not a lack of ability. What makes this book so incredibly effective at tackling that exact lack of preparation is just how accessible it is. Clocking in at right around 150 pages, it is specifically designed to be a bite-sized, super low-pressure entry point. It's not some dense academic textbook or a preachy lecture. It's short enough that a teenager can actually get through the whole thing without feeling totally bogged down by theory. In fact, you can see this welcoming approach right there in the book's subtitle. It tells the reader this is for them even if you're unsure where to begin. I love this framing because it targets total beginners, not teens who are already, halfway independent. The tone throughout the text acts way more like a supportive, cool older sibling or a mentor. It treats readers with respect, offering really simple first steps, rather than expecting them to have everything figured out perfectly from day one. That brings us to Section 2, mastering mindset and taking personal responsibility. This is the foundational shift that moves teens away from feeling like, oh, life is just happening to me, and moves them toward true personal ownership. A major part of this mindset shift is establishing what we call a growth mindset. Hawthorne breaks down those fixed limits we literally all put on ourselves at that age. Things like thinking, well, I'm just bad at math, or I'm just not an organized person. Instead, the book frames adulthood not as a sudden switch that magically flips on when you blow out 18 candles, but actually as a set of muscle memory skills. And hey, just like any muscle, these skills are built step by step through practice, absolutely not by pure luck. Once that mindset is locked in, Hawthorne introduces a really reliable framework for decision-making and problem-solving. It goes like this: identify your options, weigh the risks, and actively avoid impulse choices. This gives teens some much-needed structure when they're facing intense peer pressure or online pressure. It lets them turn everyday challenges into awesome growth opportunities, rather than panic-inducing crises. Moving right along to Section 3, everyday survival, the hard skills of independence. This is where we shift from those mental frameworks into the very practical physical world skills of independence. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it contrasts those hard skills, like budgeting, cooking, and writing resumes, with the softer, emotional skills, like setting boundaries and spotting red flags. This right here is one of the standout strengths of Hawthorne's book. It doesn't just focus entirely on balancing a checkbook, nor does it only focus on feelings. It perfectly balances physical world requirements with emotional intelligence, creating a truly complete, holistic view of what independence actually requires.
Let's look at what's probably one of the biggest anxiety points for young adults: money management. Hawthorne breaks down financial literacy into incredibly simple steps. Understand how your paycheck works, build a basic budget, and form saving habits. But the absolute genius of this approach is in the framing. Setting up that very first budget isn't presented as some boring, restrictive chore. No, it is framed as a massive move toward freedom. It's a tool to ensure that your bills and your spending don't pile up and end up controlling you.
Beyond just money, the book dives right into essential household mechanics and physical health. We're talking about cooking basic meals, doing the laundry properly, setting up simple cleaning routines. It also covers handling minor house emergencies safely, knowing basic first aid, and, crucially, maintaining proper sleep hygiene.
These are the nuts and bolts of daily life, right? Mastering these means preventing simple, solvable issues from piling up and completely hijacking a teenager's day-to-day existence.
But, as we all know, a clean house really isn't enough if you just fall apart under stress. That leads us directly to Section 4, Emotional Intelligence, navigating the soft skills to protect your energy and time when life gets messy.
Here, we map out time management on one side against emotional regulation on the other. Hawthorne provides some highly practical tactics for getting unstuck and defeating procrastination, even recommending specific organizational apps that actually help with focus. Then, on the emotional side, he teaches teens how to identify their triggers, manage anxiety, and adopt healthy coping mechanisms. The ultimate goal here is emotional steadiness. We're training young adults to stay calm and respond to setbacks rather than just reacting and spiraling out of control.
Another totally fascinating aspect of the modern teen experience covered in the text is digital literacy. We see this stark irony today, where teenagers can navigate incredibly complex digital spaces effortlessly, right? Yet they can be deeply intimidated by making a simple phone call to book an appointment or speaking face-to-face in an interview. Hawthorne addresses this by teaching them how to manage their digital footprint, protect their privacy, avoid online scams, and keep social media in perspective so it doesn't end up limiting their future opportunities.
Interpersonal skills are also a huge focus here, boiling down to one golden rule: set limits so no one else controls your decisions or energy. This means enforcing healthy boundaries, practicing active listening, and learning exactly how to spot relational red flags early on. It really empowers teens to hold their own in real-world conversations while staying entirely true to themselves.
So now we're entering our final section, Building Small Habits, the Blueprint for Action. This section is key because adult independence isn't some sudden breakthrough. It's something built step by step, habit by habit. And this brilliantly illustrates that exact point. By mastering these 4 equally weighted areas, mindset, survival, emotions, and interpersonal skills, teens are given a clear, actionable roadmap. They realize they don't need to be perfect or have all the answers right away. They just need the right tools and a little bit of courage to take the next step. So, I want to leave you with an action challenge today. Whether you're a teen joining this explainer to level up your own life or a parent looking to start a productive conversation, look at the framework we just outlined. Pick just one concrete skill to practice this week. Seriously, you don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Try the very first simple step of setting a basic budget or maybe enforcing a new boundary. And just see how that small win builds up your confidence. It all comes down to this final, crucial question. Are you just letting life happen to you or actively building the life you want? Adulthood is coming whether you're ready for it or not. But with the right foundational skills, you get to be the architect of your own independence. Thank you for joining me for this explainer. Subscribe so you don't miss an episode.